now calling for an investigation into the Justice Department after senior officials overruled the prosecutor's recommendation on the sentencing for Roger Stone. President Trump's longtime ally was convicted of several felonies, including lying to Congress.
Now, the president publicly disagreed with the recommendation of 7 to 9 years, saying this.
That was a horrible aberration. These are the same Mueller people that put everybody through hell. I think it was a disgraceful recommendation. They ought to be ashamed of themselves.
Joining us now, Lisa Boothe and Jessica Tarlov, both Fox News contributors. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
I was looking at the wrong camera. Sorry.
But here we are, united on the right
That happens
camera.
around here. There's a lot of cameras.
My bad.
We were going to get to New Hampshire, where we go from here. But Jessica, first, we heard when Susan Collins at the end of the impeachment trial, she said, look, I'm going to vote not to convict. I'm going to acquit the president. But I think he's learned a lesson here. And then we see the firings, and now we see the Roger Stone case.
Well, the Roger Stone case, and obviously those 4 DOJ prosecutors who have resigned over this. I mean, someone referred to it as DOJ violence on violence, right? Because they had written a recommendation. Roger Stone obstructed Congress. He lied under oath, and he did witness tampering. Now, suddenly, because the president is upset about it, we have to assume this then went to AG Barr, who has overruled his own department on it. Susan Collins, who is deeply disappointed all the time, or extremely worried, however she wants to phrase it, and then ends up getting online, should be embarrassed about this. Lisa Murkowski should be. This is what happens when President Trump is given the leeway to do whatever he wants with reckless abandon. And it's concerning looking ahead to a potential likely second term and 4 more years of this when he doesn't even need to think about re-election at the end of it.
Yeah, she was referring back, Pelosi, in her tweet to the president quoting reporters in a series of tweets calling it very unfair, a miscarriage of justice, and a ridiculous 9-year sentence recommendation.
Yeah, I mean, look, the amended filing from the DOJ is not saying that Roger Stone is not guilty of some of the things he's being accused of. All it is saying is that 7 to 9 years is excessive and typically used for things like armed robbery. So that is the argument. We've heard a lot of things. A lot of people talking about impartiality. That is not exactly a word I would use to describe the federal government's handling of people surrounding President Trump. You look at Paul Manafort was put in solitary confinement. You look at Roger Stone and the SWAT team showed up in that pre-dawn raid, and camera crew just so happened to be there at that time. You look at someone like Kevin Kleinsmith, an FBI attorney, literally doctored an email to try to incriminate Carter Page. The FBI used a document that was, opposition research bought and paid for by Hillary Clinton. Yep. And the DNC, despite the fact that the CIA basically said that it was, internet conspiracy theory, right? So that impartiality is not what we've seen from federal prosecutors.
Clearly, despite the end of the impeachment trial, the investigations of the president continue, the battles back and forth. But there's something Jessica said a moment ago I don't want to lose sight of. In talking about this, you said the president's sort of unchained at a time when he is likely, you said, as a Democrat, to have a second term. So let's shift to New Hampshire, South Carolina, Nevada to come. You as a Democrat seem to be coming out of New Hampshire and Iowa saying this president is likely to get reelected.
That's how I came into both of these contests. And until we have a nominee that I think can bring together a coalition of independents and moderate Republicans and also unify both our diverse base of African-American and Hispanic voters, as well as more moderate establishment voters, it's concerning. We talked about this before last week. I mean, Iowa, which should have been a big week for us, right, was a complete app failure. Then we had the State of the Union, where the president, generally speaking, it wasn't my view, but got high marks for his speech. Then he was acquitted, and his approval in Gallup, not in Rasmussen, but in Gallup, hit 49%. The economy is ticking along. 63% of Americans think that their financial futures are bright. Those are good barometers going into an election where we are split right now between a progressive wing and an establishment wing. It doesn't mean it's impossible, but I don't see a Bill Clinton or Ronald Reagan in our field at this moment. It's hard to unseat a sitting president.
You look at the voter analysis that came from this on those who say it's very important to pick a candidate who can beat Donald Trump. Those that say that is the most important, 86%, Lisa, to picking a strong leader, ranks high at 82%, and those that care about people, 67%.
Well, and Jess and I actually, I agree with most of what you just said. But, look, I think Republicans should not get complacent. I think President Trump is well positioned to win re-election, but the country is very divided, right? And so both parties are going to be fighting for a small sliver in the middle. So Republicans should not be complacent, despite the fact that President Trump has a strong economy. He's got incumbency as well. But what I saw from last night with the media and many people on the left, I wonder if we're repeating the same mistakes that were made in 2016 and overlooking and underestimating Bernie Sanders. Many people said the same things about President Trump, that he couldn't win, that he's not a real candidate, that, this isn't real. And it looks like it's real for Bernie Sanders. And he won last night. He basically won in Iowa. He's probably going to win in Nevada. That puts him in a strong position heading into South Carolina. So I don't think people should underestimate him. I certainly don't think Republicans should underestimate him in a general election either.
I just want to hop onto that and repeat something that Marie Harf said in an earlier panel with Charlie Hurd. It's not necessarily about Bernie Sanders versus Donald Trump. It's down ballot. So under President Obama, we lost 1,000 seats. We all know that all politics is local. If you want to get something done, you need the mayor on your side, you need governors on your side, you need state legislatures. Look at changes that we've seen in Virginia, for instance, because we flipped the state legislature there. Having a Democratic socialist on the top of the ticket may work for Bernie's brand, but he is someone who is not a Democrat. He doesn't fundraise for other Democrats. He has recently switched to this unity talk, which I appreciate, in saying no matter who the nominee is, we're all going to work to defeat Donald Trump. But if you're thinking about Congress people running in Iowa, right, who flipped Republican seats, or Kendra Horn in Oklahoma, Lucy McBath in Georgia, and Bernie Sanders is top of the ticket, that's tougher for you than Amy Klobuchar or Joe Biden.
Heard the same concern from Juan Williams this morning. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't want Bernie Sanders to be the nominee or the president. I think he's terrifying, and I think he would destroy this country and everything that we stand for and believe in. But
That's
you
extreme.
also, no, it's not. But you also did not look what socialism does to countries. But you also
Well, this isn't.
But Jess, you also didn't make the case of why you didn't say that he's not going to be the nominee.
Well,
I think that is what people should be paying attention to. Everyone's putting the emphasis of last night on Amy Klobuchar when she doesn't have the same path to a majority that Bernie Sanders does. And I think the media is once again downplaying things just like they did in 2016.
Is Joe Biden done?
Joe Biden is not done until African Americans get their say. His rally last night, he was more pumped up than we've seen him in the last couple of weeks. He's with a crowd that supports him and has consistency.
It wasn't even in this state.
No, he wasn't. It's not unconventional. He left his sister behind to fend for herself at the election party. But until we hear from black voters, we can't make a decision like that. But he's definitely hurt here. And Mike Bloomberg is the hot topic out of Iowa and New Hampshire.
But have you ever seen a candidate that just concedes races before they, like, he gave up on Iowa, essentially. He started downplaying that and started talking about South Carolina. He said during the debate, I'm not going to win New Hampshire. And then he skips Nevada to go straight to South Carolina. I have never seen a candidate just straight up give up.
No malarkey, Lisa. He said, I'm not going to win.
It's all malarkey.
And then he didn't win.
It's all malarkey.
You guys are
No malarkey and no wins so far. That's the real issue.
How many delegates are out there? That's the funny thing about this. I mean, all our hair is on fire, and the 24 delegates last night.
You have too much hairspray for that.
Oh, we are totally flammable.
Oh, boy. That took a turn.
Jessica and Lisa, we will see you back in New York.
Yes.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us.